Hi everybody, this is Oksana, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a decorative bail for a top drilled bead. So this stone actually has a hole going through the top of it, just front to back right there. It's kind of covered up right now with all the wires so you can't see it, but basically I'm going to show you how to make a bail so that you can wear that type of bead as a pendant. And I'm using craft store wire, artistic brand wire. It's enameled copper, so hopefully you enjoy. So the pendant bead that I'm going to be using, this is big, a rectangular one. I think it's some type of Jasper, and it's just a little less than 2 inches. So let me measure it here in millimeters. So it's like 46 millimeters tall, roughly. And then for my wire, so the weaving thin wire, I'm just gonna leave it on the spool. I'm not gonna pre-measure and cut it. And this one is 28 gauge artistic wire. Sorry, I know you can see the handles of the drawers, but the sun is coming into my window right now, and this is like the best spot right here that doesn't have like shadows. So I'm trying to film in this one little spot. So excuse the background. And this is the same color. So the color is called Antique Brass. So there, I know that there's like a little sticker over this one, but it's the same color. And this one is 20 gauge. So this is going to be our base wire. And I just have a little bit left here, so I'm just going to use up what I have left. Let me just measure to see how long that is. It's like 12 inches. Okay, and your bead doesn't have to be the same size or shape as mine at all. It's not important because what we're making is pretty much like a bail, so it just has to be a top drilled bead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little wire and I'm going to fold it in half. And then here, when we get to the part where it's folding over, I'm gonna try to like squeeze it gently with my fingers. You can use pliers, but the thing with coated wire is it's easy to scratch off the coating. So I try to use my fingers whenever I can with this type of wire. Or you can use like nylon pliers. They're coated with like a plasticky material that's gonna prevent you from scratching it. All right, so I basically squeezed it so it's like a little loop, and then the two wires are coming together right here. So the purpose of this weaving wire is to connect these two wires together so they stay together. So what I'm gonna do is first I'm just gonna kind of gently bend them apart so it's easy for me to put this wire like in and out. And then I'm gonna just do a little bit of a weaving pattern. So I'm gonna put the wire in between, and then I'm gonna bring it up and around. If you wanna do a different weaving pattern, that's totally fine. So now I'm gonna put it through the middle again. Now I'm gonna put it over the top, and then through the middle, and then across both wires. And I'll repeat this a few times so that it'll make more sense. So it's in the back right now. I'm bringing it to the front by putting it through the middle. It makes kind of like a little loop around the bottommost wire. Then I'm bringing it all the way up and around. And now that it's in the front, I'm putting it through the middle and to the back. So that makes a little loop around the top wire. And now I'm putting it up and around all the way across the front, so it makes a loop across both wires, just like that. So it's up to you if you want this weave pattern. I'm just going to do it for a little bit longer. I know weaving can be really difficult when you're first starting out. My tip is using thin wire. Like this is 28 gauge wire, which is a thin, soft wire, and that makes it easier for me. If you start out using a thicker wire to weave with, it becomes really, really difficult. And another thing to remember is that wire is not string. You can't just pull it tight. I mean, like, you can in a way, but not the same as string. You have to kind of place it in the right position with each little bend has to be right. It can't just be like all loose and then you think you're gonna pull it and it's all gonna pull tight. It only works for pulling tight for like a very, very small bit. So it has to be tight from the beginning is what I'm trying to say. But then also another thing to remember is it just takes practice. It takes lots of practice. It can be frustrating and it can be difficult, the weaving. So here's how it's coming along. I'm just gonna go the tiniest bit more so that it's just tall enough to be bent into my bail. And you wanna figure out how big you want your bail to be. Maybe you want it to be really small, or maybe you have a really big necklace that you're gonna put it on, and so you need a big bail for that necklace slash chain to fit through. All right, so when it's tall enough, you're gonna separate these wires, and then here's another step that's optional. If you don't want to do this step, you just want to bring this little wire end to the back, trim it off, pinch it down with your pliers to kind of hide it, and same thing here. Decide which is going to be the back and which is going to be the front, and cut your wire ends there and squish them down with your pliers. But if you want to do this optional step, this optional step involves wrapping around one of these wires. So I'm gonna do, this is gonna be my front, and I'm gonna do this wire here. So if I'm holding it this way, it's the left wire. And this is just purely for decoration, because when you have, when you wrap the thin wire around the base wire, it just makes it look a little different. See right there? So just to distinguish it from the bare wire. So it's just a little more fancy. So totally optional. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. All right, so the length I ended up doing is like 1 inch. And that's gonna be, I'm just gonna make a swirl with that later. It's gonna be just decorative. So I'm trimming that, and then I'm trimming this, and my wire ends are both on one side, and that side will be my back. So then I'm taking my pliers and I'm just kind of going with the direction of the wire and just gently pressing down that little wire end so that it is out of the way, doesn't scratch anybody. All right, so now let me grab my stone here. I'm putting the wire that I didn't wrap around, just the bare wire here, through the stone. I'm bending it. So now we have this sort of situation going on here. And now we want to put it through this little loop. And then we want to take this little loop, and if you want, if you can use like a pencil or something to bend this bail, but I'm just going to bend it by hand. We're bending this into the shape of our bail. Okay, so now it's more apparent that it's a bail. And now we have this wire in the back, this wire in the front. So I'm just going to bring this wire forward now. All right, so we have 2 wires. So the wire that we decorated, I'm going to make a little loop with it. So, oh sorry, just realized it makes like a big shadow when I put my hand that way. I'm just making like a decorative little loop with it, like this. I'll show you in 1 second. Like that. And then this wire, we're just gonna put it next to it, like that. And we're gonna bring it up. And then we're gonna bring it to the back. So that inch is just enough room for that little wrap. It ends just right there. Here's what it looks like. And this can get more complicated, like you can do more with this, or if you like this kind of just simple little woven bail, you can trim these little wire ends here in the back. What I would do is I would trim them, leave yourself just a little bit of space, and just tuck them in there, making like a little loop around the bail, and that would make just a nice simple bail. I think that would look beautiful. Or you can keep going with it. So I'm bringing these to the front. You can make any kinds of swirls or loops or, you know, whatever you want. Since this is kind of a square piece, it has a bit of a shoulder situation here. So I'm just gonna work on doing something there in this little corner. Oh, sorry about the shadow. I guess that's the downfall of the sun. On the one hand, I thought, hey, it's really bright. I can see so good. But then it makes so much shadow. So then I'm going to bring it to the back again. And at this point, my wire's pretty much ending, so I'm going to finish it off. So mine ended up being just the tiniest bit more intricate than just leaving that loop. So I have this here. What I'm actually going to do is, instead of wrapping these two around the bail, since they're a little lower down now, I'm gonna put them through this little part here. So I'll show you what I mean in a second. Let me just trim off these ends. So what you want to do is just lift this up a little bit. Take these little ends, bend them, and then in such a manner that they go this way through. And then all that's left to do is just kind of close them up. And then you can take your pliers and you can kind of line them up nicely, and also press down this way because you want those little wire ends to be touching the wire like this, like a closed loop. Then you can press this down as well so this doesn't stick up. And that's it, they're attached. So this is what we ended up with. A swirly little bail for our big bead. So hopefully you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.